Hey guys, again, thanks for joining me today, and let's just talk a little bit about this Ottawa police chief resigning after his failed to shut down the truckers. So it says Ottawa's chief of police resigned on Tuesday amid criticism of his handling of protests that have overwhelmed downtown Ottawa, Canada's center of government, for nearly 3 weeks. Multiple Canadian news outlets and an Ottawa city councillor reported Tuesday that Ottawa Police Chief Peter Slawley resigned his commission and plans to announce his resignation at a Tuesday meeting of the Ottawa Police Services Board. Slawley's resignation came a day after Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act to take extra measures to counter protesters. So he didn't resign and then the PM here put in the Emergency Act. So he was still there, and then Trudeau's like, Emergency Act, so I can stop people from doing this. So they're saying, yeah, he's not that great of a guy, basically. Where's my cursor? There it is. Let's see, but what I was really interested in is down here. The protests, which began with a coalition of truckers and a freedom convoy protesting against vaccine mandates, have clogged Ottawa and blocked a number of U.S.-Canadian border crossings for weeks. Okay, so I read a different article basically saying that oh no, it's this one, it's right here. A number of Canadian provinces and territories have since rolled back COVID-19 regulations, but Trudeau has continued to push back while refusing to meet with representatives of the protesters. So what's happening here is that the truckers are winning because they're saying, we aren't going to do this. You cannot mandate this to us. We say, no, I don't think I will. And just decided that they won't, which is, in America, we have this saying that our rights are God-given. They're not given by the government, so they can't be taken by the government. So in this case, what these guys are doing, as far as me as a Bible-believing Christian and an American, they are exercising a God-given right here. So Trudeau doesn't like it. He does not like that they won't listen to him and won't do what he wants them to do. So the Prime Minister went to the Emergencies Act as a last resort, stiffening the police response to the protesters and anyone aiding the demonstrations, knowingly or unknowingly. Under the Prime Minister's latest action, banks and other financial institutions may freeze the individual or corporate accounts of any person or business suspected of aiding the protesters. Okay, so let's just think about this for a second. You aren't doing what the government wants you to do. So they say, okay, we're going to shut down your bank account. We're going to shut down any, the banks don't have to give you your money. Let's see, what does it say here? Any corporate account of any person can go away. All right, because you are aiding people we don't like. Now, this is typical movement by governments throughout history. They don't like what you're doing. Then they try to do a blockade of your resources. So guys, I think it's important for you to look at this and really think about this. Government here has done that to people in a little bit of a different way, but they have done it where they have said, you're not important, your job's not important, so you can't have your job right now. You must close, you cannot have it, right? And they said, if you aren't a important person, we're going to take that job and cut it off. People who did not have savings or who didn't have, like backup funds or whatever, then had to go to the government later with the stimulus. People were begging for stimulus because the government decided that their job meant nothing. Okay, so this is why people are often out here saying, get as independent as you can, grow your own food, do these things. Because if you want to be able to exercise your freedom, Okay, this is also why older people have cash on hand and they don't leave it in the bank. All right. This is why people say that, because governments will have, do, and will again take your ability to provide for your family as a way to choke collar you into doing what they want you to do. So this is why you grow your own food. This is why you depend on, in the church, we depend on each other. We grow food for each other. We support each other. If you can't afford insurance, this is why we help you. Okay? Because governments are not interested in helping you. Anything you get from the government is not a help from you. And I know at times it seems like it is, but it's not. Okay, they either have taxed you to death for you to get it, they have taxed someone else to get it, they've taken something from someone else to get it, or it is actually an impediment of the family. Okay, so this is the thing that's the most important to me. I watched another video by the lady I interviewed where there is a woman who remained anonymous. They still found her, doxed her, said this is where she is and everything else. And people are getting beat up for helping these truckers, okay? Because the government does this other thing where it runs, a psychological operation on us, or a psyop, and says, well, these people are the bad people. They're mean. They're racist, they're bigots, they're going to harm your family or whatever. You cannot take what governments say at face value. You just can't. Let me get rid of this. This is distracting me a bit. Okay. You can't take what governments say at face value, because the government, what any and all government is doing, is trying to keep you in a line or a box or a way where they can predict what you're doing so that they can keep things orderly. That's all. That's what they want to do. So because of that, they'll take whatever that they want or whatever that they think is necessary to keep you there. All right. And that's why ultimately you don't want them huge, because they start doing things like this. And we know this throughout history. They've done this. It's repeatable every single time. People want autonomy, the government says no and slaps you, puts you in a chokehold, whatever it needs to do to make sure you can't say no. So essentially what's happening here is crowdfunding platforms which protesters have used to sustain their weeks-long demonstrations would fall under the enforcement of Canada's anti-money laundering and terrorist financing rules. These people aren't terrorists. They're not trying to come out here and create fear. If I were to make an argument, I would say that the government is the terrorist here because they're trying to make you afraid and then trying to say, but we are the answer. As a Christian, the government's never the answer. My answer is always my fellow Christian in my version of the local church, right? My piece of the local church, and God, family. It's other people. It is never the government. The government is not ever the answer. So that's all I wanted to say here. But look at this. Anytime you want to say no, anytime you want to do something different, anytime you want to say, I just don't think so. No, I don't believe I will. This is what happens. You're a terrorist now. You're this, you're that. They will use any and all buzzword to try and get as many people as they can to make you do it. And this is why I hate big government and why I believe the Founding Fathers told us not to have a large government, because basically it becomes the king and the tyrant. So I just want to remind you guys today, pray and read your Bible, be in prayer of what you can do to make sure you can do these protests and you are independent of these people, the government, okay? And you have a great day. Don't let this get you down. God's people will be fine. Okay. So anyway, I'll see you in the next one.